Welcome in to the round 2 of the NHL playoff preview from DNVR. We're going to go through all 4 series of round 2, starting off with the one that, does anyone care about Carolina, New Jersey, honestly? I mean,
it's not that I don't care, I just
don't care.
It's a total guess. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen here.
Well, it's weird, right? Because Carolina's the team that we've talked about a lot. We feel like doesn't have the high-end talent, doesn't have the killers at the top of their lineup to do it. It also seems like we might not have audio.
Oh, no, really?
I don't know. That's what chat says.
All right, well, that probably means they couldn't hear us during the intro.
Yeah, we're safe on the intro.
So me singing, they missed
You
that?
can hear us? Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I can also
That's
hear
on
us.
them then.
Yeah, I was going to
They
say.
messed it up.
Try the volume up button.
Whoa.
Damn, that's aggressive.
Carolina's side, we feel like they lack the high-end talent a little bit, especially without Svechnikov. New Jersey's side, they're just kind of a total mystery this year, right? Young team, kind of new to the playoffs. We don't know a whole lot about who they are when it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, and what scares me still about New Jersey is the goaltending.
It's fun, though, right?
It's a high wire act, which is equally as fun and dangerous. It can come unraveled at any given moment, and you just don't really know.
You ever see that movie Man on Wire?
No, but I can guess what it's about based on the title.
The guy that walks between the Twin Towers.
The Twin Towers. Yeah.
That's New Jersey's goaltending.
Right, where it's like, whoa, this is amazing to watch. It's super fun.
I am also very nervous.
But we also know that even the slightest breeze can just send this plummeting in a horrible direction.
Death is fun.
So, yeah. So, I don't know. They're a young team. They're kind of house money vibes to them right now.
I picked them to make the finals for fun.
Hey,
so.
there you go. I was worried after game 1 because Jack Hughes looked really consumed by the moment.
Yeah.
And I said, is this going to be a harsh playoff lesson for the Devils to learn? And then they went on a tear in the back half of that series, and I just don't know what to think about this group.
I'm with you on. I just don't know who they really are. And now they went through a Rangers team that made the conference finals last year. They went through a Rangers team that went all the way in this year. So that deserves some respect, I think.
I do want to say, we talked about it last year. I think we all kind of felt that run to the Eastern Conference Final was pretty fluky for them last year. But, it's amazing what not all-world elite goaltending every single night will do to you.
Not just that, but it's amazing what happens when the other team isn't on their third goaltender.
Yeah.
And the other team doesn't lose its star player at the back half of the series.
Yeah.
For the record, both Pittsburgh and Carolina were onto their third goalie by the time that those series ended last year.
Mm-hmm. Rangers, very Phoenix Suns-like luck in the postseason last year.
On Carolina's side, they went through the Islanders in the world's most boring playoff series in history.
You want to fight?
There's no way you enjoyed watching that or the way it ended. Like, that was just like worst case scenario for a series, though, eh?
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
See?
I just like objectively, it was the least interesting series of round 1 to me.
Yeah, and I tell you, some good and bad luck for Carolina. Obviously, the game-winning goal, the series-winning goal, rough. Ilya Sorokin probably hasn't slept since. And then the high sticking.
Oh, I thought that's what you were referring to.
The trades,
goal.
The trades of the high sticks and what got called and what didn't.
Yeah.
Really went in their favor, but not having Teravainen
hurts them
in this series I think it's the death knell for them because as long as New Jersey's goaltending holds up and is competitive, you have a contrasting styles here of a team that wants to blitz you on offense and a team that does everything to keep you from doing anything.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's an interesting contrast here, but I just don't see where Carolina has the juice.
Who's going to keep up with Jack Hughes? Who's going to keep up with Nico Hischier's big season that he's had this year? Like,
If New Jersey's able to score 3 goals a game, I think they win the series pretty easily.
I don't disagree with any of the points you guys made. I do just think that so much of it comes down to the goaltending for New Jersey, and then I don't think that the experience for Carolina is nothing. Sure. Having said that, they don't have a super strong track record of like really pushing back when their backs are against the wall in the playoffs.
Well, it'll be really weird too, because you're talking about Carolina's been a bad road team in the postseason for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a New Jersey team that's not been good at home this year.
Yeah.
So
that's
going to be it's kind of strength on strength again, where Jersey's better on the road than they are at home. Carolina can't win on the road.
I really do think, for me, this series comes 100% down to New Jersey's goaltending. I think New Jersey's goaltending will determine who wins this game. If they can keep it to less than 3 goals a game, which I don't think is that big of an ask, I think they'll be fine. If you start running into this, and Megan and I were talking about this 2 nights ago when watching Boston, Florida, you get cute with your goalies in the playoffs and you're in trouble. I liked that Lindy Ruff went back to Schmid for Game 7 because that said, hey, you're our guy. You got us to this point. We trust you. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the way that Boston handled their goaltending. I didn't like the way Minnesota handled their
Remember,
goaltending.
after Game 6 with the Boston, I was like, would you switch him? A guy gives up 5 goals. Like, you can have that conversation. Would you do it? And we were like, no.
No. And
the guy's going to win the Vezina. And
right. And what were you and I talking about, Megan? That's why, Tiff. That's why you're the best.
Thank you.
You know, Megan, we talked about that with Olmark, where even if... So let's say Boston had won that game. You went to Swayman. Then what do you do once you get into round 2?
Hold off for 30 seconds for this conversation because we got to predict this first series.
I'll say, but where I'm going with that is you can't get cute. I think it's Schmid until you have a hard reason to go back to Vanacek if you need to. But it's going to be everything in this series. If they try to get cute with it, I think New Jersey's in trouble. And I think the same goes for Carolina because they got a similar situation. I think this series is all about the goaltending.
All right. Our predictions for this series, we all closed our eyes and thre darts at a board.
My predictions.
That's right.
I don't even remember what I predicted.
We're all looking over.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, of course. My take it to the bank pick of Carolina in 6.
Can somebody tell me what I picked?
New Jersey in 6
Hell
for Megan
yeah.
and AJ.
That's how I feel.
I took New Jersey in 7. Jesse took Carolina in 6.
Oh, yeah, shit.
I have no expectations for this series at all.
I have a couple, I think, prediction-wise. I'm going to be out on an island here a bit, but that's all right. Again.
I know one of them for sure.
Yeah. So this, to me, is what I'm saying here is I don't think the goaltending holds up for New Jersey. And I think the wheels come off it a bit, and I think you end up seeing a bounce back and forth between Vanacek and Schmid, and the magic just kind of runs out. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way.
Yeah, I just think that the offense is going to be too prolific for the Devils, where I think they can just find their way to goals. And I don't think
you mean in favor of the Devils?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't think the same is true for Carolina. I think the offense, lacking that offensive punch, they're just not going to be able to keep up. Yep. As good as they are defensively, everything they do, I think there's too much firepower on the other side.
Go ahead.
I was going to kind of corroborate what AJ's saying. That was my line of thinking too, is I actually think these teams, because I put 6 games, I do think that they're going to be pretty evenly matched in ways on paper. I had Carolina coming out of the first round because I think they had enough goal scoring to get through the first, but I have concerns that that's where they're going to fall short against New Jersey is in terms of production.
Yep.
The goaltending is definitely a concern, but I like the storyline of a 22-year-old goaltender pulling them through the second round. Like, this is another one where, all right, I think New Jersey pulls out of the second round, but where New Jersey goes beyond that is similar to how I felt about Carolina beyond the first round. So definitely for reevaluation after this, but I do think New Jersey has enough star power in terms of offensive production to carry them through this series.
Well, and Rudo, you alluded to that a minute ago of like the Hughes and the Hischier and stuff like that. And that's been Carolina's issue now for 4 years. And it's shocking. And I guess I shouldn't maybe say it's shocking me they haven't solved it. Well, why haven't they gone out and gotten a bona fide NHL
Just go get a great
superstar?
player. What are you doing?
Now,
Just go get a goal scorer like Max Pacioretty, guys. It'll work great.
Oops.
That's Now, that's just the hard part for me is we've watched it now for at least the last 2 playoffs. Carolina, they're a cup favorite. They finished near the top of the Eastern Conference standings, and then just when you get into the part of the playoffs where depth starts canceling out, they don't have the horses in the big moment to score the big goal, and that's where I picked Carolina because I'm going with the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the high end could very easily swing against them.
So let's talk about a series that people not in New Jersey or Carolina might care about.
Perfect.
Florida, the Cinderella story over Boston, the biggest upset in NHL playoff history.
Did you see
think
the
so?
NHL.com
By points.
headline?
Was it Kachuk's comments?
No, it was Stunshine State.
Oh, damn.
How good is
That's
that?
great.
Cute.
I was like, damn it, that's amazing.
That's got to be, whoever's got that job, that's got to be a fun job. Just come up with the main
One-liners.
slider headlines. Yeah.
Man, it was so good.
That's cute.
Versus the team that finally got out of the first round in Toronto. Let's start with Toronto here because I think it was a lot more reasonable to expect Toronto to be in the second round compared to Florida. Obviously, they had their own demons to slay to get here.
Let me ask you guys, when Tampa won Game 5, did you waver on Toronto at all?
When Tampa
No.
tied Game 6, I was like,
I'm with
oh,
you.
boy.
I'm with you. Because it was the same thing about as last year that we've talked about a bunch of times, that 5-on-3. When Tampa tied Game 6, I was like, I don't know if Toronto can win Game 7. I just don't know if they can do it.
Yeah, no, I was good on Toronto. I felt good.
Yeah.
Were we the only 2 who had Toronto coming out of it?
Which, hey, honestly, genuinely, I'm so glad Tampa finally lost so I can stop
Yeah, you can
picking
stop
them.
picking them.
Because I couldn't pick against them because they hadn't lost in the Eastern Conference in 3 years.
They've lost 2 series in a row now.
Right. Now I'm out on them.
Pierced the veil.
Right. I can officially move on from them.
No matter what, next year, Jesse's not picking Tampa in the first round.
Yeah. No, I was happy for Toronto. And so here's what's tough about this series for me. I think Florida's fascinating now. And it was because of comments that Matthew Tkachuk made after Game 7 where he talked about, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Matthew Tkachuk. It was, I think, maybe Brandon Montour. And he was talking about how Boston didn't handle the moment well. And he said, we remembered being here last year and what this felt like and this, that, and the other. And they're an interesting team to me because while they didn't have a great year, there's question marks in net. I think we were all, and not just the 4 of us, but just people in general, quick to forget that this was a team that had legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations less than a year ago.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Tkachuk is rolling. It sounds like they're going with Alex Lyon tonight, which is an interesting choice. Maybe that's a load management thing. But I just think they're an interesting team, and I think they're maybe a little bit more dangerous than we gave them credit for. All of that said, this Toronto team now, to me, is in the same air as where the Avs were when they got out of the second round last year. I think it's going to be hard to stop them now that they've gotten over the hump.
I think that, and I think the big problem for Florida, which you alluded to there, is their goaltending, their X factor of goaltending. In round 1 we had it as Alex Lyon. In round 2 I switched it to Sergei Bobrovsky because he was the one who closed that series out for him. And now they're going back to Lyon, and man, I have no faith.
Hey, I said it 5 minutes ago. Get cute with your goaltending in the playoffs, and it's death. I don't necessarily think this is them getting cute. I think this is load management because this series turned around maybe quicker than they were expecting it to.
I like this Florida team. I think they could do it. I just don't know how they stop Toronto's offense.
I agree.
That's coming from a guy who loves Brandon Montour, who loves Aaron Ekblad. But I just look at the dude behind him and I go, that's Austin Matthews, Willie Nylander.
Now here's the one part that, to your point about Bobrovsky, not to be fully jumping the gun on your X factor, but like if tonight really is purely a load management thing, we didn't think we were turning around that quick, and we think that Alex Lyon can maybe go steal us a win, but our guy is Bob.
Yeah.
But Bobrovsky is just a little bit of a wild card enough that it's hard to definitively say he's not going to be able to hold up. But again, if it wasn't Toronto, I would be picking Florida in this series, genuinely, because I think that's a springboard type of win. Unfortunately, I think they're running into a better team who's also coming off a springboard type of win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I know I picked Florida for the fun of it, but I think it's going to be a really tough series for them.
I think it's going to be a tough series for whoever wins. I think
that's true.
I think this series is going to be a lot more difficult than people were expecting it to be.
Is there any fear that Toronto shrinks from the moment here a little bit? Or are all demons slain
Of course.
after
Yes.
round one? Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so not
What do you mean? Is
everything-
there any fear Toronto shrinks from the moment?
They finally made it through round one.
Have you ever met anybody from that fan base ever? What?
I just,
What?
I thought maybe they killed some of the demons.
Here's the hard part, though. They feel like this grizzled playoff team, but this is officially new territory for them.
Well, technically they've played game sevens before, and this will be their seventh game, so.
And they don't have great track records in anything
Might be a
beyond
tough
Game
night.
6.
Might be a tough night for Toronto.
So to AJ's point, while it does feel a little bit like they slayed the demon, now it's cruise control because now they don't have to worry about that anymore. Now you are entering in, you have 3 more series that you have to get
Hopefully.
through. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
with
to
the way that
get
this
to
is
the ultimate
broken,
goal.
though, with the Devils beating the Rangers and
If they get through this one, you feel pretty good.
Right.
wounded Carolina in a conference final, I feel like Toronto is favored in every series, each of the potential series.
I will say, in that vein, I really do. For me, the winner of this series goes to the Cup final.
I would tend to agree, actually.
I don't know. If it's Florida, I don't know if I have that same belief. If
And-
it's Toronto, I do.
And see, again, that a lot of that belief comes from me because of the way that Brandon Montour talked about it. And I forgot this was a President's Trophy winning team. They went to the second round last year. You have Matthew Tkachuk, who I think just adds a completely different playoff element to that group. And now you've got
He's
a group,
finally having a good playoff.
right?
Nice
So-
for him.
Do you have a group that's believes in themselves a bit? And I think whoever comes out of this series runs to the final.
I think Toronto is probably more well-rounded.
Yeah.
But, Megan, let me ask you this. Would you rather have Matthew Tkachuk or pick whichever guy you want at the top of the Toronto lineup?
Like on a team that I'm rooting for.
And not a best hockey player.
That's tough. There is a quality about Matt Tkachuk that it's hard to sometimes appreciate him as he's a pest, but
Type of hockey that's built for the playoffs.
exactly.
Right?
The experience factor with Florida is undeniable here. What I think Toronto has improved upon from years past and has helped them to slay their first round demon is adding experience in a player like Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, he's big
For
time.
sure.
So
Big
not
time.
that this is same neutralizes the other. I just think that Toronto demonstrated that they can be excellent goaltending in the first round, and that is where Florida has such a weakness that I'm not sure, because I think they both have star power up top that is going to be really compelling and make this, I think, an interesting series.
So this is the one area where I will disagree. with you. I don't know if I'm willing to say that Toronto's goaltending is set and forget better. I actually think that could be one of the things that cost them this series.
It's a good point, actually.
Because you're right, Samsonov played great in the first round. He had a really strong game 6.
That's true.
I don't fully trust that night in, night out.
I don't trust Alex Lyon or Sergei Bobrovsky.
I don't either.
Probably less.
Who's
But you're right,
the
it's-
last goalie standing here
Yeah.
that you really trust on either side?
I don't know.
I mean,
Now that I'm
Maybe-
Jake Ottinger, it's got to be Jake.
Oh,
Ottinger, right?
yeah,
Okay. Now,
yeah, you're right,
Now
you're
that
right,
I
you're right.
stop and think about it, but I think that's pretty clear cut at this point. He's the best goalie left in the playoffs.
Stuart Skinner.
No. No.
He almost cost them that series, bro.
Let's get to predictions so we can talk about that series instead. I mean, a different series, but 3 Torontos, and then I'm the only one taking Florida. I don't actually believe in my prediction. I just think it's fun.
I don't think it's outlandish though. I don't think it's outlandish.
Wow.
I disagree with it, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility.
Can people hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Can you not hear?
I can't, but that's fine. We don't need to fix it. Okay. I think Toronto on paper should be the better team.
Yeah.
Just, I think they're deeper, certainly at forward. I think their defense is solid enough.
Yeah.
And then anything could happen with the goaltending in this series. So
That actually might be the just X factor either way. Whoever's goaltending
Yeah.
holds up.
Holds up.
holds up the best.
Yep.
Well, 2 series in a row, we're goaltending.
All right, let's move to the West.
Playoffs, baby.
Let's-
Well, but I do think it's different though because you're not talking about like which of these goalies is going to go on an elite run. The conversation is like who doesn't fall apart under the pressure.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a goalie duel in the most disappointing way.
Yeah.
Well, you're having
is
the
the one we're about to
exact
have.
same
Right.
conversation about Vegas and Edmonton.
Laurent Brossoit against Stuart Skinner.
Which one will
Clash of the
survive?
Titans.
And you saw, look, let's start with Edmonton. They get through LA, one of the teams we said that might be the worst matchup Edmonton could have drawn. They do the job. They get through it off of significantly Leon Draisaitl just putting the team on his back offensively and doing everything for that hockey team. Do they match up better against Vegas, or is this one going to be another knockdown drag out?
All right, so here's what I'm going to say about Edmonton because everyone knows how I've felt about Edmonton for a long time. They impressed me in that first round because the first half of the series, all the way up until they went down 3-0 against LA in whatever that was, Game 5. And they were staring, or Game 4.
Yeah, it's game 4. I think.
They were staring down, heading back home down 3-1 in the series. And I thought for the first time since they drafted Taylor Hall, you saw depth shine for the Oilers. And their depth got them out of a sticky situation. I actually thought Connor McDavid was as close to neutralized as you can make Connor
was
McDavid
not amazing,
in that first round. He was pretty human looking. And they got by on Kyler Yamamoto. Why can't I think of his name? The guy that scored 2 goals in the clinching game in the overtime winner. Klim Kostin, thank you. And then, yes, in the first half of that series, Leon Draisaitl did. I was starting to sit there and say, like, all right, how long can you do McDavid to Draisaitl on the playoffs, or on the power play? How long can that get you through?
14 straight goals, it turns out.
Dude. But I thought in the back half of that series, I saw enough from their depth that I said, okay, this is a more well-rounded team.
Yep.
All of that said, I think this Vegas team is really good.
I don't.
I think this Vegas team is really good. And despite their goaltending, they just keep rolling. Like they rolled in the regular season. They got blown out in that first game, and then they were in the driver's seat for 4 consecutive games against the Jets. I think having Mark Stone back is huge. I think Alex Pietrangelo is a element on the blue line that the Oilers don't have. And Jack Eichel settled into his game.
The only thing that gives me pause is
Why are you down there just whispering and giggling through all this? You haven't said anything in like
There's a dude over there.
10 minutes.
Sitting at the stoplight that was rocking out in his car.
The only thing that gives me pause here was it game 3 for Vegas and Winnipeg, or was it game 2? I forget.
when
Vegas is up 4-1. Laurent Brossoit gives up 3 goals in the third period of that game. Now Vegas goes on to win it. It's
It was
fine.
game 3.
They get it done, but I look at that and I go, if Laurent Brossoit looks like that, Edmonton's going to score 8 on this hockey team.
But I say the same thing about the Edmonton goaltending situation. You have it's not to the same level. Like you do have high end talent on Vegas' side.
You do, but they lack that level of firepower, I think.
Do they?
I think they, compared to McDavid and Draisaitl, for
Well, sure. But again, everybody lacks McDavid and Draisaitl level of firepower. But you've got
No.
who said that?
AJ.
Oh
Did you think it was me?
no, I knew it was one of those two. I didn't see either of their mouths move.
Wasn't me.
Who has McDavid and Draisaitl level firepower?
Yeah, nobody.
He might
Okay.
have been looking at a car again.
I was going to say, then why did you say no?
He saw a cat and he said meow.
Anyways,
That's
I was
what
going to say, yeah, AJ's clearly not interested in having these playoff conversations, so I'm just going to move on. No one has McDavid and Draisaitl, but you've got Stone, you've got Eichel. I said you like Pietrangelo, you've got Marchessault, you've got Carlson, you've got Riley Smith. Like, you have offensive weapons for Vegas, and if your goaltending isn't holding up for Edmonton, like I don't think the offensive firepower is an easy box check for them, because you're staring down good team structure and decent high-end offensive punch.
I felt Laurent Brossoit was a steady, goaltender coming at us, especially side by side for Edmonton. I feel if I'm evaluating the goaltending situation, I have more trust in Brossoit than I do Edmonton's goaltending situation.
Interesting.
And I have trust in Vegas's defense. I think that it's going to be necessary for both of these two things, for Brossoit and Vegas's defense, team defense too specifically, to shine through this series because of Edmonton's firepower, but they absolutely have offensive tools of their own. I do agree that it doesn't quite stack up close to Edmonton's at all, but I think that is going to test Edmonton's vulnerable goaltending situation.
And how good are they structurally? Because I agree with what you said. I think the one thing Vegas has going for them is they buy into what they do as a team.
So let me throw one wrench into this for Vegas as well. This is Jack Eichel's first playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Crazy to think about.
It's nuts,
It's
dude.
wild.
The fact that when he scored his first playoff goal and they said that, it's like,
Wow.
woof.
You get through round one easily. It doesn't really feel like we've seen Jack Eichel get tested as a dude who Vegas needs to be the guy when it comes to offense, certainly. He has some support, sure, with a Stone and things like that. But sometimes you see guys like that get punched in the mouth a little bit when they get up on that bigger stage.
Sure.
I don't know if it's actually going to go that way. I don't know if Edmonton is the team to put the clamps on anyone, certainly. That defense can come and go pretty handily. Darnell Nurse defensively looked horrible in that series against LA.
Right.
So,
And because Eichel's not the highest end, but I think he's higher end than anything that LA had. And then I do think having the more veteran presence around helps with what you're talking about. And again, I don't think it's all on Eichel. I mean, Mark Stone had 8 points in 5 games. Like they've got other guys that they can roll out there. And then you do have a defensive player that you can stick on a McDavid, on a Draisaitl, in Mark Stone. I just think this is going to be an interesting series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun clash of a team that likes to block a lot of shots and likes to pack the house and wants to keep you out of the middle of the ice against a team that really likes to spread you out offensively and put pucks through the seams to rip that structure apart. And that's their whole thing. That's what they do. And so I think it'll be it'll be a battle of disciplines and which team can find maybe the dirty way to win. A
deflected puck.
Yeah,
or
a deflected puck,
yeah.
a rebound of, you've 4 guys in front of the net and it caroms off 3 guys and a guy bats a puck out of midair, kind of like, who could just make something happen out of nothing. And I do worry Vegas continues to have issues with health. I know Shea Theodore had problems in that first round series. And in terms of moving pucks, he's vital to Vegas's offensive, their ability to move pucks, transport pucks from defense to offense. And I don't like Vegas's forward core that much. It's fine. Stone and Eichel obviously are your names there, but it really hasn't been a wonderful year out of guys like Carlson and Marchessault and Smith, where the misfits have kind of delivered over and over and over and bailed them out time and time again. But going against Edmonton, you have secondary scoring of guys like Nugent Hopkins and Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, where, geez, man, that's quite a bit. And, you do get deeper into the lineups and wonder, what you're going to get out of those guys, how much are you going to get, and I don't know. And the other special teams here, Edmonton has good special teams, and obviously their power play is like world class good.
It can't stay at 60%.
And
though.
sure, but Vegas's special teams are not good. And when you're going against a team, hey, if you can punch at 500 on 5v5 and win on special teams, you take it. You'll take what you can get. So for me, I'm just buying Oilers stock this year. I think they're good. I think Vegas is going to be a tremendous test for them.
All right, let's pull up the predictions. Let's see where everyone is at.
Here's the last hard part that's...
AJ and I taking Edmonton, Jesse and Megan taking Vegas in this one. Even split in 6 or 7 for everybody.
Everyone thinks this is going to be a
an
knock them
absolute
down,
war.
drag them out series.
This is going to be a really tough one. I don't feel like there are clear advantages anywhere in the series.
Here's the hard part for me with Edmonton. Even though I said that their depth helping them get through the last couple games was big, 11 points for Draisaitl, 10 points for McDavid, 10 points for Evan Bouchard, 4 points for Klim Kostin, 4 points for Evander. There's a huge drop-off.
If you can shut down Draisaitl and McDavid, you're going to beat Edmonton. I think that's just a fact.
If you could just shut down 2 of the
best players in the
7 or 8 best players in the world. Golly, man. I mean, I don't even know if that's true. I mean, it is definitely true. If you can shut those guys down, you're going to win. But you can survive them. The Avs gave up 9 points to both of those guys in 4 games and swept them.
Swept them.
And shut them down. They just survived them.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think Eichel is my guy to watch in this series because if he can excel in the spotlight, I think he's going to chew Stuart Skinner up. If he gets swallowed up by the physicality in the moment and all that stuff, I think it's going to be tough for Vegas.
I want to see how Braden McNabb, Nick Hague, Alec Martinez, big-time shot blocking types, I want to see how they do packing the house against Edmonton because they like structure tightly,
Don't give them any room.
But the other thing, Vegas is also extremely reliant offensively on transition goals. And
pretty hard to outskate Edmonton.
But Edmonton can get drawn into that is what I'm saying.
Right.
And when Edmonton gets drawn into that, we saw last year the Avs were better at that than they were, so they lost.
Yeah.
I think Edmonton's better at it than Vegas is. And if Vegas feels like they can get into that kind of game and they give in to those instincts, exactly.
But
I don't know that they can do it. If they do what Tampa did in the Cup final to the Avs last year and say, we're not going to play offense.
Yeah.
We are going to wait for you guys to make a mistake, and then we are going to counterattack down the ice, and we're just going to capitalize on 2 chances per game, and then we're not going to take penalties, and we're not going to make mistakes against you guys. They've got a chance at it. That's the avenue where I like Vegas the most, is to play a very disciplined, defensive, hard-nosed style, protect Laurent Brossoit, and hope like crazy that he doesn't throw the series for you the way that Jonas Korpisalo did for the Kings.
And see, that's where I don't think Vegas is going to get dragged into that. I just think they're too mature. I think they understand the situation. And I think Bruce Cassidy is going to say, we're not going to try to race these guys up and down the ice. And I think they have enough offensive firepower that, like you said, they can counter effectively.
Yeah, and that's where, it's just the rub is that too much of their offense this year came from transition. And so if they don't do that, if they don't get engaged in that, can they produce enough?
Okay. We can move on to the last series here. Dallas and Seattle. Yeah. Dallas in 5, and we can all go home? Yeah? Done? Easy?
You're going to have to talk to this
guy.
I
was going to say. I
don't know what Megan picked.
I don't remember, but I know it was Dallas.
Should we just go straight to predictions so we can talk off of the predictions?
Sure. Let's
just do that.
We can jump straight to predictions for this one.
YOLO.
And Jesse can try and make up excuses for this.
My man.
Hey.
So proud of you.
This is boring if we all just agree all the time, right?
Not wrong.
We definitely don't ever agree all the time.
Look.
Sell me on it.
So here's the only thing. Here's the only thing that I have going for me in this. And the only thing I just think that was we believe in ourselves, Montreal Canadiens, what was that, 2009? with Halak, where they went to the Eastern Conference Final? So 09 or 10? I don't remember. It was 10 because it was the year the Avs lost to the Sharks in the first round.
Okay, so it would have been 10.
It would have been 10, yep. They may have just caught some magic, and it's going to last them through 2 rounds. I was really impressed with the way that Seattle stayed committed to their structure. They were bought into a game plan, and they executed it for 7 straight games. And I thought that was impressive. I like the belief on that team. I like that you essentially have your top 3 lines are just 3 second lines, and you feel fine with it. I just think it's interesting. I think Dallas is a bit of a mixed bag on any given night, and they've kind of been that way for 3 straight years where they go on great runs, they go on bad runs. And I think if you catch Dallas in a bad week and you stay as committed to that defensive structure that you had, and you have just enough of Michael Jordan's special stuff left in your water bottle, you could pull this one out. I'm trusting that they have Michael Jordan's special stuff. That's the only thing I've got in this series. Otherwise, I'm expecting Dallas to take this one the same way that you guys are.
They're going to need it because I don't see Seattle scoring the first goal in every single game in the series this time. And while I agree with you on some of the up and downs on Dallas, the stabilizer is Jake Ottinger.
Totally.
He's the guy who's, if Dallas is a little bit off, he can just keep them in a game. And it takes one play from, they should have Joe Pavelski back, it sounds like.
100%.
Jordan and Jared McCann will not be. He's not even 2. Yep, he's out games 1 and 2.
Yep. This scene in Too Fast, Too Furious is like fucking salute, man.
I will say, if we see the Jason Robertson you saw in Game 1 of that Dallas-Minnesota series, Dallas might have a problem. If he shies away from those moments in a close game, that's where the cracks start to show for Dallas a little bit, I think.
The Kraken? Because I do also want to give Seattle credit. I thought they did a good, not great, I thought they did a good job of neutralizing Colorado's top-end talent. Now, there's a million things that go into that. The Avs were down to basically just their top-end talent. But can you bottle up Jason Robertson enough? I don't know, maybe. Can you neutralize a couple of that real high-end for Dallas? And then, honestly, I think these are 2 teams that are going to end up kind of playing similar. And it comes down to, what do you get out of Grubauer? Do you have enough magic left from the first round? If Dallas won this series in 4, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Seattle impressed me enough that I think they're going to give Dallas a couple games here. We'll see what happens.
I think the difference for why Dallas, because you're right, I think Seattle's game plan contained Colorado's top talent really well, but there were only maybe 2 to 3 of their top talent on the ice at any given time. They lose Cale Makar. So it made it easier for their plan of attack, whereas I think Dallas has a more complete top 6, and the goaltending component for Dallas is just really compelling to me because in terms of Grubauer, I thought he had a terrific first round in net, but there were still...
Is he going to outduel Jake Ottinger?
That's where I don't think he can, because I still think, like, you look at the goals against average side by side, and there's still more that can get through Grubauer, in my opinion, than Ottinger. And Dallas has the offensive weapons, especially because they have a more complete top 6 to do that, and I think it's going to make it harder for Seattle to suppress Dallas's top 6.
And we talked about it a ton in the Avs-Seattle series. Seattle does not play very well from behind. So if Jake Ottinger's not giving them that first goal,
that's a great
it's
point.
going to be really tough for Seattle. I struggle.
I also think that Seattle is not going to continue to live the charmed life of getting all of the randomness. I don't think that
they got a lot of breaks in that series.
I don't think that Dallas, who has been incredibly healthy all season long, is going to randomly just lose 3 key players in the middle of the series.
Well, uncalled cross-checks to the neck keep happening.
Yeah, I mean,
could do.
Look, if they continue to hurt other players and don't have repercussions, that would definitely benefit them. I don't know that they're going to have another. I don't think that there's going to be a key player that just falls off the face of the earth the way that Valentushkin did in that series. Yeah. I don't think that they're going to watch one of the opposing team's best players. I don't think Miro Heiskanen gets suspended in a 2-2 series in a Game 5. I don't think that they're going to catch every single break imaginable under the sun, including an own goal to open Game 7.
Yeah.
I don't think that Seattle just Seattle is extremely disciplined, and they are deep, and they are talented, and any of their lines can score and do any of these little things that gets them to a game. They can't win if they have to score 4 goals. They can't win if they don't have if they don't go even in special teams. They have a terrible power play, and their PK got extremely lucky. If you go and you look at the numbers,
Yeah. The generated XG is like
it
ridiculous.
was the way that the Avs were generating scoring chances and everything. Colorado's power play finished with a PDO in the series of like 800. Like, it was astronomically lucky by their penalty kill to have survived the way that it did, because it didn't stop Colorado from generating, it stopped Colorado from scoring. That's the name of the game. That's why they're here. Mm-hmm. They deserve credit for that. But it's basically Philip Grubauer or bust. And if that is your pathway to success, I'm picking bust a lot faster than I'm picking Philip Grubauer.
Yeah.
Especially against a team like Dallas, which has high-end talent. Rupe Hintz is about to pick that team apart. And I think that his speed, that tenacity, you drop Joe Pavelski back onto that lineup.
That's the big
they're only about to eat greedy, and I don't think this is going to be a particularly close series. I think the games will be competitive individually because Seattle isn't a team that just
goes
dies.
away.
Well,
Sure.
it was what Jared Bednar said. I think it was after Game 3 when the Avs were up 2-1. And, he made the point, you don't get 100 points by accident. Seattle was a 100-point team.
Totally.
They had a good season. I agree with a lot of what you just said about their team, and they're deep, and they're all that stuff. I was talking to someone a few days ago, and I said, for Seattle to have won this series against the Avs, there was 2 things that had to happen. They had to be perfect. And they were. Give them credit. They were perfect. And they had to get really lucky. And to everything that you just listed out, AJ, they did. So they were perfect, and they got really lucky, and they won in 7 games, and you give them that credit. The only reason I think they could make this series, their depth impressed me, the way they stayed committed impressed me, and the fact that when they won Game 1, it was like, okay, but can you do that 4 more times? And I thought they did it 6 more times. I thought they played the way that they wanted to play. If you can do that, if you have that belief, I think they could make this series interesting, but I think the same exact thing is true. They got to be perfect, and they got to get pretty lucky. I don't think they're going to get as lucky as they got in the first round.
Going to need a lot more than a water bottle of MJ's secret stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know.
You're going to need a Gatorade
The Looney
tub of
Tunes
that
beat
shit.
the Monstars on that stuff, and that was like one of the biggest upsets in sports history. So if they have that.
I think Panthers over Bruins is still bigger.
It's pushing a close second at bare minimum. But
I also don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting the Kraken here, because I'm not. There's a reality here. They don't have Andrei Burakovsky, and they don't have Jared McCann.
Yep.
And
you also have to deal in the reality of everything went against Colorado and everything went for Seattle.
Yeah.
Purely in terms of personnel.
Yeah, and
Before you get to all the other stuff.
And then you get into the games, and you just see, like, Colorado's biggest puck luck came in situations that didn't matter.
Yeah. Down to make it 3-2 in
Yeah,
Game 5.
it makes it 3-2 instead of 3-1.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Right.
Like, it just doesn't. The things that went against Seattle were survivable, and as we saw, because they survived.
Funny how that works.
Well, and then even.
But I'm not here for Seattle. Seattle didn't dominate the Avs. Seattle did not thoroughly outplay Colorado. None of that is.
I thought
true.
they did in stretches.
And then the entire Game 7 happened.
I agree. Well, and so there was 2 moments in Game 7 where you really sat there and said, "Holy smokes, hockey Jesus is looking down on these guys with a lot of favor." It was the Avs dominated them for a period plus, and then they get a goal off of Ben Meyers' face,
and then you get a game-tying goal disallowed on an offside. You living the charmed lives here.
And it was offside. It was pretty offside. It was offside enough that I wish they should have been able to blow that in the moment.
It's what we said. We were on the watch along. That was obvious enough that what's this linesman doing?
Right. Why did it even get to that point? And so, yeah, I'm not arguing against any of that. I took Seattle because I thought, kind of like how you took Florida. I think it'd be fun, and I think if a billion things go right for them, I think they could do it.
I see Pickles in the chat here saying a lot of people said this about the Avs series too. The difference here is the personnel. The Avs had no Landeskog before the series even started.
Yeah.
And Nichushkin leaves in the middle of the series. If this series gets going and Dallas loses Ben and Robertson in the first 3 games, we're having a way different conversation.
I feel very differently about
and then
things.
to your point, AJ, if you lose Miro Heiskanen in a pivotal game 5.
To a suspension.
To a suspension for game 5. Then, you're talking all kinds of things. That's what I'm saying about Seattle, because that person is right. A lot of people said this about Seattle, that they had no chance. So many things went Seattle's way. When you take an objective step back and look at the way that series went, there was so much that went Seattle's way. It was really kind of the ultimate, this isn't the Avs year. Yeah. Like, just end this.
This
because
is the thing.
Holy shit.
Want to give us some final thoughts on this, as we do have to wrap the show up?
I was going to co-sign a little bit of what Jesse's saying, because I think of the people who chose Dallas, I had it going in the longest amount of time. And
which was 6, not 7.
Which is 6, not 7. And I just wanted to endorse the Seattle credit that they executed consistently over the span of what was a 7-game series. Like, it's worth noting that it did go 7 games. And they were unwavering in their execution. I think that is a strength of the Seattle team, that I think line by line, because of Seattle's depth, Dallas is going to be tested. I think that's why it's going to be drawn out to at least 6 games. And the difference, too, is like Dallas is now opposite a team that is going to get weird with goaltending. They are going to probably stay with Grubauer in net, and if Grubauer performs similar to his first-round expectation, that is going to be a challenge for Dallas's star power to get past, at least more challenging than it was for Minnesota, in my opinion. So I think there are things that Seattle definitely did well in round 1 that is going to keep this series interesting.
And that's kind of the magic I think all of us are getting to, is if Seattle can find a way to do consistently what they did in round 1, it's a series. Is it enough? I don't know.
I would also point out that there is no Jared McCann in this series right now.
Yep.
So now Seattle faces one of the disadvantages that Colorado had in their series walking in. They walk in with worse health. So they are a worse team in game 1 of this series than they were in the last series.
That's true.
But they aren't playing the most cursed team on the planet now. So what do you do? I mean,
Dallas's inconsistency is my only thing where I pause on them, because we have seen them even this year go through stretches where this exact team just falls asleep at the wheel for 5 straight games.
And that's the playoffs. If you have a bad week, you're out.
Boston.
Yeah, exactly. We do have to wrap this up, though. We appreciate all y'all hanging out for our round 2 previews. Not as fun with the Avs not in it, but still interesting. I'm still going to be watching, certainly the Vegas-Edmonton series.
I'm actually more looking forward to watching games right now.
It's a lot less of a drag when you're not exhausted going through it in the moment, for sure. But we do appreciate all of y'all hanging out for this. Go enjoy the round 2, and we will talk to you guys on the pod tomorrow.
That's the other nice part.